Thank you for Patreon now for donating to the Patreon.
Hey guys, it's Vanguard of my Krysrain Vanguard deck profiles. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and subscribe. This time we are covering DZ Lyrical Monasterio set 2, Krysrain, whatever the hell you want to call it. AKA the one where it's like Highlander, except her divine skill feels kind of hit or miss depending on the situation. I think we all solemnly agreed, at least in set 1 with the 4 divine skills released, she was arguably worse than all of them, especially Wellstruck, considering the fact that Wellstruck actually set up for his, game plan, but whatever. Either way though, Krysrain is still a fun deck to play. I'm not going to go good deck because that's 50-50, but I would say it has plays. So let's go and get this started and see what we got, because honestly the deck did get at least 1 or 2 good support cards in set 2, so might as well show it off. First up today we have our Energy Generator. It's a ride deck crest. You may only have 1 ride deck crest in your ride deck. Auto and ride deck, when you would ride, put this card into your crest zone. If you win second, energy charge 3. You continuously have up to 10 energies, and auto beginning of your ride phase, energy charge 3, and then act once per turn, energy boss 7, draw a card. All around very solid, because this deck can get a huge amount of energy really quickly thanks to Krysrain's ability to energy charge, so you're possibly always going to be able to pull up that draw, and even if you don't, you're going to have an excess of energy to use for your energy blasting skills. I think the Energy Generator is a really nice card for this, and again, worst case scenario, you use it for the draw, worst case scenario, you don't. So either way, it's a nice ride deck crest. And of course, we have our starter. We have Wonder, Lavender, Your Soul. So grade 0 boost, 5k shields, 6k base, auto, road upon if you went second, draw a card, standard starter. Nothing too special about it. None of the ride line really requires this, so you can run any starter you want. I just choose Your Soul because, like I've done with the other divine skill decks, all the divine skill decks were canonically supposed to have the same triggers and at least starter as their demo deck respective versions. And since, this is the demo deck starter for DZ, might as well run Your Soul there. But again, you can really make any starter you want, but I'm going to choose Your Soul for canonicalness, so one of in the ride deck. And of course, we have our triggers. We run our 1 over trigger, Mysterious Twins, Romia, and Rumia. Grades of boost, 50k shield, 5k power. Over trigger move, you might only have 1 over trigger in your deck. When revealed as a trigger, move that card, draw a card, choose one of your units, it gets +1 for the turn. And if revealed during your check, activate its additional effect, which you get during this fight, you get during your turn. All your rear guards get plus 10,000 power. All around pretty solid, because no matter what, if you draft this extra damage check this, when you pull it, you're going to get a free draw, and either someone's not getting hit that turn because it has an extra million on it, or someone is getting hit that turn unless your opponent has a PG because they got an extra million on it. And then, if you pulled it during your draft check, your entire rear guard gets plus 10k for the rest of the game, which is all around pretty deadly. I mean, if you put that in any aggro deck, it puts a lot of pressure on your opponent, especially in an aggro deck where the Vanguard will always have an extra crit, and on one particular turn, a rear guard will also have an extra crit. So all around, Romia and Rumia is a nice over trigger to have. You can run Volnut for more multi-attack, but on the turn you use the divine skill, it's a fairly risky bet. I'd much rather have Romia and Rumia for, numbers. So one of. And of course, we have our normal triggers. We run a total of 7 crit, 3 cheerful sunshine roars, grades of a boost, 50k shield, 5k power. This can really be any crit you want. I just choose to make it wars because, again, canonical triggers. Then we have 4 copies of Precious Tune Edwidge, grades of a boost, 50k shield, 4k power, critical trigger, auto rear guard, boosted. Put a soul, choose over units, it gets 2k for the turn. It's cool, a free 2k doesn't really make the difference unless you stack a bunch of them together, but the important part to note is that she goes to soul, and with one very particular combo in this deck, it can eat away a lot of soul. So Edwidge is pretty much here just in case that combo comes to fruition, because most likely if that combo comes to fruition, your hand only implies that's the only combo you can do. So this is like, just in case those are the only 2 cards you see, you can usually use Edwidge to mitigate the problem. So total of 7 crits for the pressure, obviously, because Vanguard wants more crits and stuff like that. Then we have 4 draws and Transparent Snow Covered Night Bear Toy. I knew I should have edited the original version before I did this deck profile. Anyways, grades of a boost, 5k shield, 4k base, continues guard circle, opponent's Vanguards are grade 3 or greater. This unit gets plus 5,000 shield, so 10,000 shield, which is nice to have. It's also a draw trigger, so always increase the hand. And considering this deck wants to have different named units on board, which granted isn't that hard to do, but you want to try to increase your odds as much as possible. It does help get different named units into your hand. And again, the 10k shield is nice too, so we obviously run the 4 draws for that. Then we have 4 heals and Talkative Hour Tamus, grades of a boost, 15k shield, 5k power. Standard heal, nothing just special about it. You can really run any heal you want. You can even run counter heals, but I prefer the normal heals regardless because they have a consistent 15k shield compared to the counter heals fluctuating 10 to 25, but again, run whatever heal you want. I only run this one because canonical triggers and all that. So 4 heals, 4 draws, and 7 crits. Then move on to our grade 1s. Let's start off with the most interesting part about this and the best part about building any Highlander base deck, and that's the one of 4 different PGs. So we have It Still Warm Molmia, Musical Committee Nicoline, Soapy Splash Ravinia, and Diva of Refreshing Calm Christine. Pick any of the PGs you want. The upside of Lyrical Monasterio being separately supported for the first half of D is simply because all of them gave a bunch of PGs, so now we can consistently build this deck with a bunch of PGs. But anyways, They all share the same skill. They're grade 1s with boost 0, so it's okay base. Continuous Sentinel. You have to only 4 Sentinels in the deck. And also put on Guard Circle. Choose one units that cannot be hit on the bottom. If your hand has 2 or more cards in it, choose a card from hand. Guard is standard PG. Nothing too special about it. Basically, that means if this and what other card is in your hand when you place it on Guard Circle, you don't have to discard them, which is great. Because that means you can be as aggressive as you want in the early game. And I'm going to just tell you this right now. The combo that I was talking about earlier involves her and basically being aggro in the early game. So when your opponent eventually counterattacks you, you can throw down one of your many 4 PGs and hopefully you will be safe. You can run really any of the Lyrical Monasterio PGs because there's plenty of them. I just chose to make it these 4 because when Melia came out closer to the time of Krysrain's release, Christine I like the most, and she also came out close. Well, she wasn't close to the time of Krysrain's release, but she was the type of, she's the same typing of Krysrain, which is Mermaid, and then Ravinia. I just liked Ravinia when she was released. And then Nicoline, well, she was in every generic deck that I built for Lyrical Monasterio, so all these PGs are here for a reason. Again, you can make them any of them. I just chose to make it these 4 because I have a story for each of them. And move on to our non-4-ofs, or non-1-ofs, and that is 2 copies of After School as always. Julia, grade 1 boost, 5k shield, AK base, auto rear guard when she boosts a friends. This unit gets plus 5,000 power for that battle. Ah, yes, the friends mechanic. Everyone's favorite mechanic to just splash into any Lyrical Monasterio deck. Frankly, the only reason I do it here is because this deck needs the help. Normally I don't breach, the standard rule of keep archetypes separate, but personally I feel like this one needs the help, so I'm willing to negate that rule for like this one-of attempt. So Melty's in here. That already tells you much, but being a 13k booster is nice, and it does help in the aggro, especially when you flip Maya on Maya, because this deck can make rear guards out the wazoo, so as long as one of them is in friends, Yulia will always be able to boost, so she's a nice 2 for the 13k. And we have 2 copies of Monasterio Iveta, grade 1 boost, 5k shield, AK base. Friend continues rear guard. If you have another unit in the same column as her, that and this unit both become friends. And then continues rear guard. If you have another friend, this unit gets plus 2,000 power. All pretty solid. The friend does not have to be herself or in the same column. It can just be another column that has friends, and then she'll immediately be a 10k, which all around is pretty solid because, a 10k booster anywhere is always nice for pressure, especially behind the Vanguard. But also if it's like in the front row, 10k swinging for an intercept, Iveta has won me games in the dumbest way possible, either because I aggroed with her early or because my opponent was dumb enough to leave it alive and then I just swung at an interceptor, and that's what cost them the game because they were 5k short after that. So all around, Iveta's a very nice grade 1. Never underestimate her. Her glasses prove her true strength. Always be attention to the ones with the glasses. They're always the strongest of the group. 2 of, that's what anime has taught me about everything. And we have 3 copies of straight up my favorite grade 1 in this deck without a single bit of argument. Munching Girl Seiya, grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 30k base. The second I was building this deck the first time, I immediately knew I had to put Seiya in here because I really loved playing her when she first came out in Acestus, and I tried so hard to find a way to make her more consistent, and slowly but surely I got better at using her. And then the deck rewarded me by allowing me to do the part with Seiya's skill that is entirely luck reliant and pull it off consistently. And her skill is auto when she's placed on the rearguard circle. Soul Blast 1, look at the top card, call to an open rearguard circle, put it to hand. If you put a card to your hand, choose a card from hand, discard it. Now, if you flip over Seiya from her own skill and you call it, yes, you can use Seiya's skill again. You basically keep going until you can't call anymore. And the reason why I bring this up, and you're going to think this is insane, and to be fair with you, I would agree with you considering this is a statistical anomaly, but in this deck, every single time I've used that skill except for once, that has gone off. To, like, that exact order. Like, I will call a Seiya, flip a Seiya, call a Seiya, and then I'll use that Seiya skill, and typically I'll flip over a normal unit. It'll either be her, or it'll be Melty half the time. Like, legitimately half of those times it is Melty, and then typically because I did that when I was on my grade 2 turn, Melty would then proc because I took a damage, and then I would get 4 rear guards. And all I had to do was lose 1 hand card. So basically, Seiya just sets you up really well and is all around a very good grade 1 because, Melty can proc during main phase, and Seiya just gets you pretty much any free rear guard. And if you want to add the card to your hand, sure, you just got to discard one, but I mean, it's better to call it to rear guard because your stuff can bounce. So 3 of Seiya, she's just a very solid grade 1, and really the only thing that eats away at the soul outside of, oh wait, no, never mind. Yeah, she is just the only thing that eats in the soul, so by all means, go ham with her. She's great to have and is an easy 3 for that reason alone. Then we have 3 copies of A Song Just For Me Someday Sika. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, AK base, auto when she's placed on rearguard circle. If you do not have another rearguard with the same card name as this unit, perform one of the following. If you have 4 or more units, counterblast 1 to draw a card, including herself and including the Vanguards, automatically just need 2 more. And then Energy Blast 3, she'll get plus 10,000 power till the end of the turn. All around, pretty solid. She's either an 18k by Energy Blasting 3. I'm telling you this right now, your energy is either going to go to this, or it's going to go to, not her, or it's going to go to this. But, if you have extra energy laying around, that's what you use it on. But then, free CB to draw a card, all around, not that bad. It helps increase the hand, or again, it's the ATK booster. Either way, she is a nice grade 1. Again, I do prefer Seiya, but that's also because Seiya just keeps getting me rear guards, but she's a good card, 3 of. Then we have 4 copies of Cynical Composer Rom, grade 1 boost, 5k short, 8k base. Continues rear guard during the battle that she boosted. If you have a grade 3 grade Vanguard Krysrain in her card name, she'll get plus 5,000 power, so 13k, as all of the specific grade 1 support cards are for the respective Faded 1 grade 3s. And then auto rear guard, when this unit boosts a grade 3 or greater Vanguard Krysrain in her card name, so specifically has to boost the Vanguard. If you have 4 more units with different card names, and the Krysrain Vanguards, Energy Blast 3 until end of battle, when your opponent will call cards without Sentinel from hand to guard circle them called with 3 or more of different grades at the same time. So not 3 or more cards. I mean, obviously they have to, but they also have to guard with grade 0, grade 1, grade 2, or grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, or, you know, at this point. So ROM is very good for getting rid of very specific cards in your hand, almost making the opponent not able to block Krysrain, who probably has a double crit on the turn that you are trying to kill. So, you know, making it a little bit hard for them, so they have to set up a little bit more defensively to be able to survive, or, you know, basically hold back on the aggro so they don't die, which all around is good for ROM. The only downside is she takes up 3 energy blasts, and typically you're going to use the energy blast on either more numbers or more board presence, which is kind of needed for Krysrain. So don't get me wrong, Rom is great, but she also has to boost the Vanguard for that skill. I'm going to tell you this right now. Typically I misplay with her because I aggro early, meaning anything that I can call, especially if I'm going second, I'm going to call to aggro my opponent down, which means my ROMs that are in my hand are either discard fodder or I'm calling them to the front row and swinging. And if you don't know, you can't exchange the columns, or you can't exchange the rows in this game, or unless you have a hyper-specific skill, and this deck does not. So sadly, ROM does not get used properly, but she gets used as a nice beat stick. She is a good 4 of, especially if you do get to pull off her skill, but yeah, typically for me, she is a beat stick and or discard fodder, so take that as you will. Then we have last grade 1 in the deck, 1 of in the right deck, none in the main deck of Lively Navy Tiffany, grade 1 boost, 5k show, 8k base, auto and choose rolled upon by Confident Aqua Musette. Reveal the top card of your deck, call it to rear guard as a grade 2 as a normal, and put it to your hand if it's not. Oh, look at that. Target for Seiya, target for Melty. Again, you kind of see the point here. The deck is kind of meant to groove with those two and spam them out 24/7. Either way, though, pretty cool. It can technically make your ride deck free, quote unquote, by getting you a rear guard, hopefully. And if it doesn't, AK, if it's either Krysrain or a trigger, it goes to your hand. All around, Tiffany is great for rear guard access. Her grade 2 variant is not as good, but her skill is fine as a grade 1, so I'll take that as we will. So 1 of in the ride deck, none in the main deck. Then we move on to our grade 2s, 3 copies of What Color Is Your Wish Valspawn. This is the card I was looking for. When I said earlier that there was only 1 card with the Soul Blast, I was like, no, there's a second one. And then I was looking at Seiya, and I was like, I hit everything but Valspawn, who had the Soul Blast. But I was right, there was another Soul Blaster. Anyways, grade 2 and 5k short, 10k base. All she's guarded from your hand during your ride phase. Soul Blast won't bot deck her to draw a card. She now helps increase your hand and makes it so that your ride deck cost was free, but she does eat into the soul of Seiya. I will say this, because I like to aggro, I will spam Seiya 24/7, so if it's a choice between her skill and Valsplan's skill, I will 100% gamble on Seiya's, but, you know, logic to who they may be. And then auto, when placed on rear guard circle Persona Road this turn, counter blast 1 and choose your Vanguards, and it gets continuous Vanguard, or your 4 moves get 5,000 power for the turn. Cool. Nice pressure. Just aggro down your opponent. It's just a good card to have, especially if you've already passed the Divine skill. That auto changes the big number that Krysrain makes the rear guard to, the same as hers. So adds extra number to your rear guards and has a nice form of pressure too. So she's a nice 3. She does eat into the CB, which kind of becomes a problem in the late games, which is when the Persona would typically happen, and she does eat into the soul problem, which I like to spam it with Seiya. But, you know, it's just like either or. You kind of have to figure out how to mitigate it. So 3 of Valsplan. Only have 3 copies of Hop and Stellar Melty, grade 2 and 5k shield, 10k base, friend, continues rear guard if you have anything saying combat her, that and that becomes friends. And then always she's placed on rear guard during your main phase, whether it's from hand or from deck. Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Counterblast 1, shift to 1 card with grade equal to or less than from your Vanguard. Call to rear guard circle. If you called a card, draw a card. Cool. All around pretty solid. Simple CB. You get a rear guard, you get a draw. This is why typically you want to go first with this deck, so you can just not do anything on your first. Well, actually, if you're me, it works either way, because you're just supposed to be aggro regardless. But, you know, if you go first and then you get to grade 2 first after your opponent deals you damage, you play the Seiya, and if you're me, you Soul Blast 1, you flip another Seiya, use that Seiya skill, you Soul Blast 1, you flip Melty, you call Melty, use Melty skill, you Counter Blast, and then you call either of these 2, and then you just get more rear guards. Or you get lucky and you already have a Melty in hand, and then you call that Melty in front of the 2 Seiyas, and then that Melty skill activates, and then you get a grade 1. That did happen once. That never happened again, but it happened once, and I think it was on camera. Either way, though, Melty is a great 3 of. You know, she works so well with the deck's chemistry of being able to superior call during the main phase and allows for early game aggro and still get good hand cards out of it. Melty is a very good grade 2, and I love having her in any deck. I just don't like seeing her everywhere. It's like the same reason why I don't like using Brainwash, just because like everyone uses it to the point where it makes the card not as cool, like kind of a loses value. I don't know why I'm like blanking on this word right now. It starts with the D, diminishes this value. Yeah, there we go. So 3 of Melty. I like her, and to anyone that wonders why I don't run her in a deck, it's not that I don't like her. I just, you know, archetypes and stuff like that. Also, I just don't like seeing her used everywhere. Then we move on to 3 copies of Loving Pink Francette, grade 2 instead of 5k shield, 10k base, auto rearguard. When this unit is chosen by the effect of your grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Krysrain its card name, choose one of your Vanguards, and it gets plus 1,000 power for that turn. So this is meant to benefit Krysrain because Krysrain's skill allows you to give any unit plus 15k and give her specifically the critical. So, you know, you get basically supposed to do is give Francette plus 15 and give Krysrain plus 10, either on the turn that you're not using the divine skill or the turn you are using the divine skill, so you can add the most pressure on the rear guard attack. So it is there. And then auto rear guard, when this unit attacks, if you have 3 or more units with different card names, including herself and the Vanguards, automatically you're at 2. She'll get plus 5,000 power for that turn. And then if you have 4 or more, you just get 1 more or 1 more from the other one. At the end of that battle, choose one of your other rear guards and bounce it to hand. All around pretty solid. Adds rear guards back to hand, so you can constantly attack with everything you've got. So worst case scenario, if you have to call PGs, or because she doesn't specify normal units, if you just have to start calling triggers, you can just swing with her, boosted by them, bounce them back to hand just so you can hit, and then you still have the guarding power for afterwards. Francette is a very nice grade 2, and she was like the considerable topic of who's a 4 between her and our grade 2 over here. And the reason why Francette lost is simply because Francette cannot aggro as much as this card can. If it already isn't clear to you, my form of aggro is just board spamming like hell and beating the crap out of my opponent, especially if they're a nuke deck. That's my favorite thing to fight against, a nuke deck with any format, because I love to get my board back, even if it's like just a bunch of triggers. That's always the best part, especially if it is a bunch of triggers. That's actually really cool, especially if you manage to win, like you pull a trigger and then like you overwhelm them. It's just cool. That's the only reason why Francette's not a 4 of. It's either or with these is the 4 of. I chose Inez because she can get more rear guards compared to Francette, but both of them are good choices to be the 4 of in the grade 2s. And then speaking of which, we have 4 copies of Innocent Orge and Inez. So grade 2 intercept, 5k shield, 10k base. Auto, she's placed on rear guard circle. We have a grade 3 greater Vanguard, Krysrain in her card name. Counter boss 1, energy boss 3. Look at top 5, choose to 1 unit card from one of them with a different card name from your unit cards on your Vanguard circle and rear guard. Call to rear guard and shuffle your deck. AKA, check the top 5, call something that isn't on your board, and then you shuffle the rest back to deck. All around pretty solid. Again, it does eat into the EB, so it kind of makes struggles with this grade 1 and this grade 1. But you know, that's where the timing comes important, where you're either going to call something or you're not going to call something, just so you can use the other skills. And then auto rear guard when she attacks a grade 3 or greater unit. If you have 4 more units with different card names, including herself and the Vanguard, so again, you only need 2 more, she'll get plus 10,000 power for that battle. All around pretty solid. She's a 20k swing, which is nice to have. All she has to do is attack a grade 3 grade units. It can be a Vanguard or rear guard, or hell, if they ever let it happen, attacks in damage zone. I don't remember how that joke started with myself. I remember like one time I was listing off the possibilities of how units could get skills in D, and then like one time I think I slipped up and said in damage zone, and that just became a running bit with me. I want to know what video that was that I first said it in, because I want to see if it was an actual bit that I had planned, or if it was a bit I said on accident and I just started running with it. Either way though, Inez is a very good grade 2. She gets rear guards. She can be a 20k swinger. Again, you can either make her the 4 or you can make Francette the 4 because they're both really good cards. I just prefer Inez because rear guard spam, so 4 of. Then we have our last grade 2 in the deck, one of in the right deck, none in the main deck of Confident Aqua Musette. Grade 2 and set 5k shield, 10k base. Auto when she's rode upon by a grade 3 card, Krysrain in her card name. Reveal the top card of your deck, call it to rear guard circle, and if it's a grade 3 or greater or less normal unit, put it to your hand if it's not. So here's the issue, and this is why I specifically hate this card. With her skill, you are forced to call whatever it is unless it is a trigger. And the reason why I hate this is because she can call Krysrain. Has this happened yet? No. Except to anyone that has played the Magnolia original line, and most Stoicheia players probably have and then gave up because of, or at least gave up trying to play this line, and that's why they switched to Zorga, because A, it was more consistent, but B, because they've also probably faced this, and I faced it enough times because I'm the only person who actually stuck it out because of my stubbornness, not because I'm dumb. And that would be, you would use Lattice, or you would use Cherish, and you would flip over Magnolia, and because Cherish skill either puts it to hand or sends it, or calls it to rear guard or sends it to soul, you would have to send the Magnolia to soul, and then Lattice would call it to rear guard, which, or to be more exact, when it would flip the top card, it would call it to rear guard, and Musette pretty much does the same thing. I don't hate her, but I hate her skill. The grade 1 was fine. They should have made her skill bounce something to draw. But you know what? It's fine. Apparently the demo deck got a better ride line because the grade 1 can search a PG and then add it to hand, and the grade 2 can get a PG back to hand. But one of Musette and the ride deck, you know, the demo deck got better treatment than its actual faded one. I feel like Bushy knew what the demo decks were going to be bad, or like people were going to hate on them, so they were like, you know what, let's just make one of the demo decks so much better than its divine skill counterpart by giving it a broken ride line search skill. One of Musette in the ride deck, she's not bad, but like especially when you compare her to her own like what was supposed to be bad predecessor, yeah, she is not good in any way, shape, or form. But you know, one of in the ride deck. And then we have our last card in the deck, 3 of in the main deck, 1 of in the ride deck, a faded 1 of ever-changing Krysrain. Grade 3, 200% ride, 13k base, act Vanguard, once per turn, counter boss 1, perform 1 of the following. If you have 4 or more different units with different card names, perform 2 instead of 1. If you have 5 or more, perform all of them. So that includes herself. So no matter what, you by just C being 1, you're always guaranteed to get 1 of them. And then, you know, if you have 3 or more units with different card names outside of herself, you'll get 2. And then if you have 1 more extra unit on top of that, you'll get all 5. Or you get all 3. So the first skill, draw an energy, charge 3. The second skill, choose one of your units, I guess with 15,000 for that turn, and then the third skill, this unit will get a crit for the turn. Again, you can either use all of them, 1 of them, 2 of them, depending on your board state. All around is pretty nice that she basically gets you the energy generator's draw benefit and then gives you more energy, so maybe you can use it again if you want to, or in the sense of she pretty much makes a Nez free on top of you already getting 3 energy for starting the turn, so you can basically use a Nez and Rom in the same turn, and then, you know, you also have this as a possibility, not to mention the up for, you know, the turns that you were not using energy, because those ones, well, I mean, to be fair, she can be used without being at grade 3, but the other ones can't, so you're pretty much stockpiling energy up until you get to grade 3. The Vanguard will gain a crit in that 15k, typically give it to Vanguard, but again, Francette, who will then just give the Vanguard another 10k, which all around is pretty solid because that was at for more numbers while your opponent's still at grade 2. So the deck does have some form of good aggro while your opponent's at grade 2, which was its weakness because its Divine Skill doesn't proc to their out grade 3. And speaking of which, Divine Skill, auto Vanguard, at the end of the battle, this unit attacked a grade 3 or grade unit. It can be a rear guard, so if your opponent found a way to superior call while they were on grade 2 and they called a grade 3 rear guard, and then you can swing into that, you can still proc the Divine Skill. Return all rear guards to your hand, choose up to 1 unit card from your hand, call it to rear guard circle, and at the end of turn, increase or decrease that unit's power and critical to match this unit. You may only use Divine Skills total of once per fight among all your cards. Okay, so I think the general consensus we came to on this, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure the general consensus we all came to on this is when you, the unit that's called, its power will be stuck with Krysrain's no matter what, unless like you boost it. I might be wrong on that part, but like basically you, like if you have the over bonus, it won't give it to that grade 2. And if you have the, or like, well, most of the time you're going to call grade 2, more specifically Enes, but it won't give it to that rear guard. It won't give a persona ride to that rear guard because technically the persona ride already been applied to Krysrain. So someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm like 99% sure that's how it works, that the unit call does not get any other buffs. It's stuck with the buff that it got from Krysrain. So either way though, all around Krysrain is, you know, she's not bad. Her skill is good. She has a very consistent first skill, being able to constantly draw energy charge 15k and a crit. But her Divine Skill is a letdown part because she only gets you 1 more attack. And while, yeah, at a really big number, that's also going to be following Krysrain because you're probably Persona Road that turn, and you probably stack these 2 on the Vanguard. So alone without anything else, the Vanguard's at 38 double crits. You lose having 2 units with double crits and 38,000 power. The issue is that's the only turn you get 4 attacks. And you're not doing much outside of that, which is where Krysrain has her problem. But again, that's why this deck is built to go early in the aggro, or aggro in the early game. You want to get Seiya and Melty on the board as fast as possible, push them to high damage, and make sure Krysrain is game when you use the Divine Skill. And if it's not, you want to make because you will probably survive through the next turn after you use the Divine Skill, as long as your opponent does not have like the perfect massive aggro attack waiting for you. But you also have to make sure you can kill them during your next turn, which is always the struggle because you pretty much burnt out all of your resources before that Divine Skill and on that Divine Skill turn. So she's a good grade 3, but you just have to time it right. So 3 of in the main deck, 1 of in the ride deck. And without further ado, that's it for the deck. I hope you guys enjoyed. All around, this deck is not bad. It by all means is not bad. I said it earlier that this deck was iffy on good. It's good, when you time it properly. I'm not an expert on this, so by all means I cannot time it properly, and I'm also not a meta speaker, so keep that in mind. But the deck works really well when you get to aggro it early, and sometimes you just got to take risks. I took risk on that Seiya play, and I have not regretted it since, because she keeps proving me right that I can trust her. So being able to call multiple rear guards a turn and just pressure out your opponent as fast as possible, and then swing face with Krysrain on first grade 3 turn, and pretty much you want to put them to 4, and then second grade 3 turn you go all in with that Divine Skill and pray. And even when you bounce Inez and you call her back via Krysrain's Divine Skill, even if you won't get the numbers from her on attack skill, probably, you can still use Inez's skill to get more rear guards, and technically speaking, you can flip Seiya, and then you can use Seiya to flip Melty, and then you have 2 more attacks. It is possible to do that. Well, yeah, Melty won't proc her skill, so basically you want to flip anyone that isn't Melty, but, options are there. Either way, though, that's it for the deck. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, join us on Twitch, and I'll see you on this one. Don't forget to stand up your Vanguards.